You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynne Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Monday the 3rd of September. Sectarian riots again in Northern Ireland. 10 pilot whales saved but 16 die in Fife. 55 new free schools are due to open this autumn. Eurozone decline in manufacturing output. Tchaikovsky with guns. New recruits in Afghanistan to be vetted more thoroughly. Thought for the day, are we mad? And finally, cocktails ahoy. UK news. Around 50 police officers have been hurt in Northern Ireland. The injured police were keeping apart loyalists and Republicans who were at a Republican march in Carlisle Circus and the Antrim Road area north of Belfast. Petrol bombs were used along with bricks and fireworks. The police managed to keep the riot under control using water cannons which knocked the rioters off their feet. 16 pilot whales have died after being stranded on beaches between Anstruther and Pittenweem in Fife. British divers and Marine Life Rescue refloated 10 more whales after they kept them alive. These whales were part of a pod of 26 and they will be monitored for the next 24 hours to prevent them re-beaching. 3 of the whales that died were calves, but most were around 20 feet long. There will be an investigation into the stranding. This autumn, 55 new free schools will be opened, according to Michael Gove, Education Secretary. This triples the number across England, Minister's state. Michael Gove hopes that these new schools will be as successful as the previous 24 existing ones. Free schools, a flagship government policy, are state-funded but not under local authority control and have more control over teaching and budgets. On Merseyside there are threats of union action after dozens of teachers who worked for the 2 local authority schools had their contracts terminated after their schools were replaced by the Hawthorns Free School. When Hawthorns opened its doors on Monday morning, up to 100 teachers had not yet heard whether they had jobs there. In Bradford, more than £200,000 had been invested in setting up a free school, but just days before the start of term, funding was withdrawn because the school had failed to attract enough pupils. A World at 8 reporter comments, "What is this with free school business? They had free schools in the olden days, only they were called village schools and council schools. Now they're called comprehensive schools." As for Bradford, the only reason this funding might have been withdrawn was that it did not attract enough Asians, so was not thought of as a flagship for multiculturalism, which is the mantra for obtaining funding nowadays. Euronews. Eurozone manufacturing is in the declining spiral as the PMI falls again in August. According to a widely watched survey, the manufacturing output across 17-country Eurozone shrank again last month. Manufacturing in Germany fell for the 6th month in a row. Spain is in a deep manufacturing decline, reports have shown. Last month the decline in Spanish goods fell once again from the previous month of July. A World at 8 reporter commented, "It's just getting worse and worse for Spain as each day passes by. The Spanish people have had to sit there and watch as their once great country slips into the same black hole as Greece has. Spain is also about to ask the EU for more financial aid. Italy has also taken a blow on the manufacturing outputs over the last 10 months. A World at 8 writer commented, "If we in Europe continue to put our work and call centres out of our countries and buy goods in from outside the EU, then the European sites will suffer. We are not looking after our own." French and Russian actors and enthusiasts have got together to reenact a famous battle scene. The date is 1812, during Napoleonic times. The battle scene is the gates of Moscow where many Russian and French cavalrymen died in the famous scene. Over 200 actors will bring the 200-year-old battle scene to life this week. A World at 8 reporter states, "I hope they use Peter Ilyevich Tchaikovsky's music based on this famous battle, the 1812 symphony, with real guns." World news. Kurdish rebels are on the attack once again near the Iraqi border. Turkish sources say that 10 police officers and security team members have been killed by the Kurdish rebels. The rebels are thought to be using long-range missiles to carry out the attack. It is the second Kurdish attack in the last few weeks that has resulted in the deaths of security forces along the border. The training by the US military of Afghan security forces has halted to allow training and vetting of new recruits. The new recruits will be chosen much more carefully due to the fact that there have been many incidences of men joining and then gunning down US soldiers and the Afghan forces. The new power of the Muslim Brotherhood is stretching its wings all the way to the Egyptian state television. Female reporters have been made to wear hijabs whilst on screen, reports are shown. This would appear to be the way events are going under the new democratic rule. Thought for the day. Are we mad? I have to say it. We are absolutely barking mad in this country and getting more so by the day. We give time, money, attention, status, education, homes, land and thought to people who are not fit to wipe the boots of the average Brit and congratulate ourselves whilst we do it, or rather let the government and councils do it, and yet we allow a 70-year-old man to undergo extreme trauma even after he's been through a terrorist bomb attack. He was sitting opposite one of the 7/7 bombers, Mohammed Sadiq Khan, as he set himself off, and still suffers from PTSD due to his injuries. From what I can gather, the trouble started when he applied for dual nationality in Australia. He was born in India in 1942, I believe, and his father was a British Army officer. He can trace British ancestry back to the 14th century, which is longer than I can apart from my mother's side. This man is John Tulloch. As he was born in colonial India, he was classed as a British subject without citizenship. Lovely. Apparently his wife has a British passport and citizenship, as do both his sons and his brother, who was also born in India. The Indian-born academic believes he should be entitled to a UK passport, but the UK Border Agency questions this. Now, I do not know the gentleman, but he's served this country for many years and should now be entitled to a retirement in the country he chooses, and he chooses the Vale of Glamorgan in Wales. Fair enough. He should not be treated like this. He's been told he cannot live here permanently, but can only visit like a tourist. Oh, rather like the tourists we have who overstay their visas by years, if not eons. Like the clerics we allow in and cultivate who openly despise us and all we stand for. Like the illegal criminals who come here to be fed and watered in our jails. Or like the gay illegal who had a family life when he acquired a cat. If not, it must be similar to the Nepalese who killed a man by throwing him into the Thames in 2008 and is still here because his ghastly parents are still here. If not similar, it must be a twin case to the Muslim who ran over a little girl, dragged her under his car and left her to die like a dog, but avoided deportation because he hadn't kept his dangly bits in his trousers after arriving here in a lorry in 2001 and had produced 2 brats. Another surely similar case for the UK BA is that of a Jamaican gun criminal who was jailed for 5 years in 2007 and allowed to stay on here for the same reason of errant dangly bits. No, they're not similar, are they? Not in any sense of the word. This man has not demonstrated time and time again against the government or us, or wanting to cut off the heads of British soldiers and any who do not bow down to Islam. This man was born at a time when paperwork abroad was not up to scratch. Treat it like that and give this man his British citizenship now. Let us hope he fares better than the unfair system of treating black Zimbabweans better than our white Zimbabweans in the good old entry system. If you are black and from an ex-British Commonwealth country, you get considerations out of the wazoo. If you are white and have been forced from your home back to the UK, you get nothing, and I mean nothing. I also hope that Professor John Tulloch does as well as the thousands of Anglo-Indians who graced our shores after partition in India during the late 1940s. Many of the 60s pop stars and actors were from this unsung class of people from the Indian subcontinent. Now, to class an Anglo-Indian. Well, that is difficult because many have come from a section of people who have been mixed race for generations in India. Of course this started when the British went out in the early part of the 17th century, so we have a people who are virtually split personalities culturally. They were despised by the Indians for being part European and despised by the British because they were people of colour. The Brits saved the medium civil service jobs for them, the local British Indian official type jobs, passport offices and clerical jobs the Indians were not good enough for, and they also went great guns on the railways. They often thought of themselves as British and lived what they thought was a British way of life in Calcutta and Delhi, complete with tea and bickies. They in turn despised the Indians for being natives and the British for looking down on them, so it was not an easy relationship. During partition, many Anglo-Indians suffered along with the Indians and Sikhs in the Troubles, as this sort of mixing often resulted in people who looked either entirely Indian or entirely British, and mobs don't stop to ask. They fled to the UK, Scotland being a haven for them, and New Zealand and Australia, where I'm sure they did not have the trouble getting citizenship that Professor Tulloch is having. His case is a sample of madness. He can do a better job of tracing his relatives from whatever continent than most of our immigrants and illegals. He has committed no crime and in fact should be given hefty compensation for the terrorist atrocity he was caught up in. He is educated and has worked all his life. He is married with children in this country, not outside. Where would he go? How would he live? UKBA don't even consider these facts in his case, but give them an illegal criminal and they pull out all the stops to keep the bugger here and still raping, killing, thieving and selling drugs into the bargain. As I said, we need a total rethink here, a zero tolerance on certain people, and I mean zero. We need to look after the people who have looked after us, not the ones who hate us and just use this country as a watering hole to suit themselves. Wake up, British government. And I just hope you wake up before the people wake up, or it ain't going to be like Goldilocks waking up in Little Bear's bed. Oh no. And finally, it's not all sad news for Wales in tonight's World at 8. Vets in the United States have saved 5 stranded whales off a beach in Florida. The lucky 5 from a pod of 22 who died have been taken to the Florida Atlantic University's Harbour Branch Institute for Rehabilitation and have been fed fish drinks to nurse them back to health. The fish smoothie is made from minced fish such as tuna and sardines and has been going down a treat with the whales, especially the baby calves. They're being fed through a feeding tube every few hours until strong enough to be put out to sea again. So for a healthy start to the day, drop the pina colada and go for the tuna cocktail. Oh, yummy. You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynne Mozar and I wish you all a very good night.